breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got a great podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by a good friend of ours, Matt Josephs, aka Mid-Major Matt. We're going to be taking a look at what he's seeing with regards to the playoff picture. We're also going to be chatting with him about the games for Thursday, how he's looking to play the prop market with there just being 2 weeks left in the regular season, actually more like a week and a half left in the regular season. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever they want. With EdgeBoost, 100% of gambling transactions do get approved, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll give you a $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Wednesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Your top over team in the Toronto Blue Jays played an under against the Rays and could not get the job done. 2-1, the Tampa Bay Rays are able to get the win as Ian Seymour continues to be really good for the Rays. He gives up 1 unearned run in 7 innings. You had from there Edwin Uceta, Pete Fairbanks, both led a scoreless inning. And Kevin Gausman did his part. He gave up 1 run in 6 innings. Yuriel Rodriguez gives up a run in an inning. Tommy Nance, a scoreless inning of his own, but only 4 hits for the Blue Jays, so not a lot doing there. The Cincinnati Reds have been your top under team in all of baseball, and they were on to a nice 6-2 win over the St. Louis Cardinals. Yet another under for them. 86 unders, 58 overs, and 8 pushes for the Cincinnati Reds, but they were able to get the Powerball going with Spencer Sear going deep off of Andre 3000 Palante for his 18th home run of the campaign. Palante now giving up 4+ runs in 10 out of his last 18 starts, 4 runs allowed in 5 innings. Jorge Alcala, Ryan Fernandez, Grayson Garcifo, all in the scoreless inning, and Matt Savanson gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. Alec Burleson, though, was able to get his 18th home run of the campaign. That comes off of Brady Singer, who did have the Cardinals singing the blues. 2 runs, one of which was earned in 5 2/3 innings. You had Chase Burns lend 2 scoreless innings, Emilio Pagano scoreless inning, and Graham Ashcraft was not a load of Ashcraft. He was able to get in out of the bullpen scoreless. For the Walker Texas Rangers, they fell to the Houston Astros in their home state 5-2. The final is Jacob deGrom, not the start he was looking for. 5 runs allowed in 5 innings, including a pair of bombs. Jose Altuve, 26th home run season. Jeremy Pena, 16th, while Christian Javier was much better in this start. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. Craig Kimbrell, yes, that Craig Kimbrell, a scoreless inning. Stephen Oker, Brian King, they were the king of combining for 2 scoreless innings. And then you had Robert Garcia give you a scoreless inning. Sean Armstrong, Phil Matone, they were able to combine for 2 scoreless innings of their own. The Royals and the return of Cole Ragans find a way to knock off the Seattle Mariners, this by a count of 7-5 as Bryce Miller, not a bad start here, gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings, does allow a home run along the way as going deep for the Royals. You had a home run number 29 of the campaign for Salvador Perez, and then Adam Frazier really broke the game open with a home run off of Matt Brash. 7th home run of the season for Brash. Well, he brashly raised his ERA, giving up 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Carlos Vargas out of the bullpen, and Caleb Ferguson, Gabe Spire, both led a scoreless inning as Seattle led going into the 8th inning, and we talked about this with our good friend Curtis Rogers of 710 Seattle Sports. Kansas City has been a house of horrors for them, but they did get a pair of home runs as Cole Ragans gives one up to Eugenio Suarez, 46th home run of the campaign, and then Lucas Ursich gives up a home run to Mr. J.P. Crawford. 11th home run season for Ursich, gives up that home run in his inning of work, but still gets a win. Carlos Estevez, Anel Zerpa, they both lend a run in an inning, and for Jonathan Mullen and out of the bullpen squirrels, Michael Lorenzen came out of the bullpen, and John Schreiber both lent a squirrels inning, and Cole Ragans just 3 2/3 innings in this game. He gives up 1 hit and 2 runs because he was giving up a few walks, so always good fun there. And for the Brewers, they continue to have the best record in all baseball. Now at 93-59, 9-2. They're able to take down the LA Angels. And for the Angels, another over. 82 overs, 64 unders, and 6 pushes. And for Seattle, they had another over as well. 83 overs, 64 unders, and 5 pushes. 2 of your top 3 over teams in all baseball. As for Jose Soriano, lifted from this game after 25 pitches, 3 runs allowed. From there, Connor Brogdon gives up 2 runs in 2 2/3 innings. He would give up a home run along the way. today, as would Jose Urena. Urena's all over this game, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 3 innings, and Robert Stevenson, a scoreless inning. You did have Taylor Ward get a pair of home runs and his 99th and 100th RBIs of the season. Pair of solo home runs off of Brandon Woodruff and Nick Mears for his 32nd and 33rd of the campaign. Woodruff allows that home run in 5 innings of work. Mears allows that home run in his inning of work. Eric Fetty Wap 2 scoreless innings. Abner Uribe a scoreless inning, and Sal Frelick able to go yard. Home run number 11 of the campaign for him. And with regards to the New York Yankees, they got their offense going as well. 10-5. They're able to take down the Minnesota Twins as Todd Bradley is playing games with us, so he should be Milton. 7 runs allowed, given up in 4 innings. From there, Genesis Cabrera gives up 2 runs in an inning, including home run. Cole Sands, he pounds Sands, giving up a run in an inning. You had Travis Adams, Pearson Ewell, Cody Funderburk, all lend a scoreless inning, and for the Yankees, wasn't necessarily the sharpest start from Luis Eel, 5 runs, 4 of which were earned in 4 2/3 innings, but enough to get the Yankees a win. Devin Williams, Luke Weaver, Camilo Duvall lend a scoreless inning. Fernando Cruz, far outside the bullpen, scoreless, and for the Yankees, going deep, Cody Bellinger, 29th home run season. Trent Grisham, 32nd and 33rd home runs of the season. You had not a lot of offense in this game as the Cleveland Guardians completely blank the Detroit Tigers. This by a count of 4-0. As for Cleveland, they get a really nice start out of Gavin Williams. 9 punch outs and 5 scoreless innings. Tim Aaron, Matt Festa, and Jacob Junis all get a pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Eric Zabrowski, Cade Smith, both there in a scoreless inning. Guardians actually leave 11 men on base as Captain Jack Flaherty, he was the captain of giving up walks. 4 walks and just 1 run allowed in 5 innings. Bullpen from there was not great. Jose Urquidy gives up 2 runs in an inning. Bailey Horn, Tommy Canley both give you a scoreless inning. Brant Herter, 1 run allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Chris Paddock was able to get an out of the bullpen scoreless as well. You had the Cubs lead off today with an 8-4 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates. As for the Buccos, this was not what they were hoping for out of Johan Oviedo. He got messed with, 4 runs allowed in 5 innings as he gives up a pair of bombs along the way. As for the Chicago Cubs, Ian Happ was unhapless, 23rd home run of the season, and Moises Ballesteros, his 2nd home run of the season. Matthew Boyd has now given up 4+ runs in 4 of his last 5 starts as well. He lasted just 3 innings, giving up 4 runs, all of which were earned, including a home run to Joey Bart, 3rd home run of the season. But Cubs bullpen was great. Aaron Savali in long relief, 3 scoreless innings. Porter Hodge, Drew Pomeranz, and Taylor Rogers led a scoreless inning, and for Pittsburgh, the bullpen was not so great. You don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez. Well, he gave up 3 unearned runs in 2/3 of an inning. Evan Sisk and Kyle Nicholas combined for 3 outside the bullpen squirrels. Dorio Maretta gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings, and Dennis Santana a scoreless inning. As the Pirates, they went 1 of 10 with men in scoring position. The Atlanta Braves were much better than that. They take down the Washington Nationals, this by a count of 9-4, as Herson Waldrop does give up 3 runs in 5 innings, but bullpen helps him out from there. Dane Dunning, not stunning, giving up a run in an inning, but Dylan Lee, Pierce Johnson combined for 2 scoreless innings. Dylan Dodd, along with Hunter Stratton, combined for a scoreless inning, and Marcell Ozuna goes deep for a home run number 28 of the campaign for Washington. Brad Lord, he wasn't bad. 2 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings, but this bad bullpen, they were awful. Clayton Beater gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Shunkuski Ogasara in his inning gives up 3 runs, and Surin Lau gives up that home run, 2 runs in total over the course of 2 innings. So that's another loss for the Washington Nationals, and that's another W for the San Francisco Giants. And by the way, the Arizona Diamondbacks going into the late slate on Wednesday, despite the loss, 2 games out of the National League wildcard's last spot. So that's how wild and crazy this is. 5-1 the final, and this game was wild and crazy as it went 11 innings with the Giants winning by 4 runs. Of course, Justin Verlander gets a no decision despite pitching 7 scoreless innings. Spencer Bivens, Ryan Walker from there led a scoreless inning, and Yoel Piguero pitches the 10th and 11th inning, gives up an unearned run in the 11th, and for the Giants, they bust through for a 5 spot in the 11th inning as it was 0-0 going into it. Brandon Pfaadt, 9 innings, allows 1 hit and 1 walk, and he gets a no decision. From there, Brandon Garcia scoreless innings, and John Curtis with 2 S's, 0 outs, 5 runs, 4 of which were earned before Juan Murillo has to come in and polish off the 11th inning. You don't see that very often, and, well, you do see this quite often. The White Sox losing. They followed by a count of 3-1 against the Baltimore Orioles. As for Baltimore, this is exactly what they were looking for out of Tyler Wells, as he was able to pitch very, very well for the team. He gives up just 1 run over the course of 6 innings. That 1 run was a solo home run. Going deep for the White Sox, Mike Tauchman, 9th home run of the campaign, and Martin Perez, just not long for this game, gives up 3 runs in 3 2/3 innings as he gives up a home run to Dylan Beavers. Mr. Beavers, his third home run of the campaign, and from there the bullpen was actually quite good. Steven Wilson, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Jordan Leisurely gives you 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. Grant Taylor, Brandon Eisert both give you a scoreless inning, and Tyler Gilbert in outside the bullpen scoreless. But the Orioles, they had some good relief pitching as well. Keegan Aiken, Rico Garcia, and Yarmiel Hidalgo. They don't throw the ball over the mountains, but they throw the ball over the plate. All were able to give you a scoreless inning. The Boston Red Sox clawed their way back against the Athletics. This by a count of 5-4. As for the A's, they were leading by a count of 4-2, and things went a little bit sideways for them, as this game did go 10 innings, by the way. And for Mason Barnett, he was able to go 4 innings, gave up 3 runs, all of which were earned, including a home run going deep for the Boston Red Sox. It was home run number 9 of the campaign for Rob Refsnyder. And then the A's bullpen was actually relatively solid. Brady Basso gives you an out of the bullpen scoreless. Tyler Ferguson gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings, but Elvis Alvarado was in the building for 2 scoreless innings. Justin Cerner, 1 1/3 innings scoreless, and then Michael Kelly gives up the unearned run in the 10th inning, a Nick Sogard grounder that pretty much ended the game. A fielder's choice to end the game, as the A's, they leave 13 men on base. As for the Red Sox, the bullpen held down the fort after Lucas Giolito gave up 5 walks, 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings, but from there, Justin Wilson, Steven Matz combined for a scoreless inning. Justin Slayton, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Garrett Woodlock, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Aroldis Chapman, scoreless inning. Zach Kelly and Chris Murphy, they combined for the scoreless 10th inning to be able to get that one in, and this one comes in for the San Diego Padres. 7-4, they're able to take down the New York Mets as the Mets' demise just continues. David Peterson, great name, not a great showing. 6 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. From there, you had Gregory Soto along with Ryan Elsley give you a scoreless inning. Ryan Stanek does give up a solo run in his inning work. And hey, you were able to get a scoreless inning as well out of Dominic Hamill in his MLB debut. And for the Mets, they were able to get 4 solo home runs for their 4 runs. You had Starling Marte of the Marte Parte get his 9th home run season. Francisco Alvarez, his 9th home run. Juan Soto is 41st, and Pete Alonso is 36th. As for their starter, Nick Pivetta gives up 3 solo home runs in 4 2/3 innings for the Padres. Adrian Morejon, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Jeremiah Estrada gives up a solo home run in his out of the bullpen. But Mason Miller, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless, and Robert Suarez was able to turn a scoreless inning. As for the Padres, you had Ramon Laureano get his 24th home run season. Manny Machado, his 26th. In what should be a shock to nobody, the Colorado Rockies lost again, 8-4. The Miami Marlins getting the job done here. Rockies now up to 111 losses this season, and Ryan Weathers didn't even give a great start. 3 runs, 8 hits allowed over the course of 4 innings. From there, Lake Picard, 2 scoreless innings. Ronnie Enriquez, Calvin Fauché, they both led a scoreless inning. George Soriano in the 9th inning does give up a solo home run. Mickey Moniak, 23rd home run of the campaign. McCade Brown, actually a good start by his standards, considering his ERA is 9.17, 3 runs allowed in 4 innings, and then the bullpen gave it up. Ryan Rolson is scoreless inning, but Jay Noah run give it up in an inning. Juan Mejia gives up a run in an inning. Ronisy Contreras gives up 2 runs in an inning, and Anel Shavili, he gave up a run in an inning, and Contreras gave up a home run to Augustin Ramirez, his 21st home run of the campaign. And then the LA Dodgers are able to polish off the Philadelphia Phillies, this by a count of 5-0 as of right now. They need to get the final out of the game. I have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, but Dodgers currently need 1 out to be able to get it done, as Jesus Luzardo, well, he did not get the job done for the Philadelphia Phillies. He gives up 4 runs over the course of 7 innings with a pair of home runs allowed. Shohei Ohtani, 51st home run of the season. Freddie Freeman, his 21st. Blake Snell was tremendous. 12 punch-outs, 2 hits allowed in 7 scoreless innings. Alex Vesia, scoreless inning. As of right now, Tanner Scott has gotten 2 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. That is probably going to be 3 here relatively soon, and if you're looking trend-wise at what we are getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has been an underwhelming season, but over the last 7 days, things have been getting a little bit more overwhelming, as the over in the last 7 days has gone 56.7%, 51 overs to 40 unders. Meanwhile, moneyline favorites have really been able to clean up 60-33 on the money line over the last 7 days. Look at the last 30 days, it's been a bit of a different picture, as for our favorites are hitting at just 55.5%, 223 and 178 on the money line. Meanwhile, over rate right around about 53%, 207 overs to 183 unders. And you take a look at the season-to-date favorites are hitting at about 56.5%, 2,074 and 979 on the money line. Dodgers did win 5-0, by the way. And then the over rate, that is right around about 49%, 1,070 overs to 1,110 unders. So that's what we're looking at in baseball right now, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we are joined by one of our good friends as we chatted up with Matt Josephs, aka Mid-Major Matt, who does a tremendous job on so many fronts, and we're going to be talking props, this playoff picture, and so much more with him on the flip side on the Baseball Winning Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VC Family Podcast.
breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always a pleasure to be joined by this man as we got mid-major Matt joining me. You know him a little bit better as Matt Josephs, who does a tremendous job over at the Prop Queen website /podcast. You know that he does an amazing job as well over with the ESPN radio show in Richmond, Border to Border as well. This is a guy that is just very dialed into the great game of baseball, getting things all gassed up with regards to college football and college basketball as well. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter /X at mid-major Matt. And Matt, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure to join you.
Always great to have you on. And Matt, we've got ourselves just an interesting landscape in baseball, and I am not much of a futures guy, and I don't know if you've got any futures that are outstanding, but it just feels like it's such a murky market right now where the team that probably has the, I would say, most value is the team that goes into the playoffs the hottest, because there's just been no separation in baseball, and all these teams feel more flawed than ever before.
Yeah, certainly. I think this is the year to play some sort of long shot potentially in the MLB, because there is no team that's running away with anything. You see Milwaukee in the National League. They've, I feel like in the past we've said, oh, they've got really good baseball teams, and then they fail in the postseason. The Phillies, obviously, as a Phillies fan, you've seen them go in hot before, and then the bats suddenly go cold, and they fall out early. And the American League side, Detroit, Toronto, like everybody has their strengths, and anybody is capable of winning 3 or 4 series in a row. But I think anybody is also capable of losing that first series and going out early. So yeah, there's definitely going to be value in the futures market this year.
Oh, no question about it. And I know you're a little bit of a Philadelphia Phillies fan, so we have to talk a little bit about them, because you and I share an affinity for one thing with the Philadelphia Phillies. We are both not believers in Aaron Nola. He has had a terrible season for the team. That said, when it comes to this Philadelphia Phillies team, how do you take a look at they and Aaron Nola? Because with Nola, I don't know if they can have him in a starting spot in the playoffs, even though their other options with the likes of Walker Buehler and Taijuan Walker are less than savory too.
I mean, that's the thing that's interesting is Walker Buehler made one start with the team, and they're already considering him over Aaron Nola. The thing that I would think is interesting is you're going to start 3 lefties. Do you want to break the lefties up? There are certain teams that might take advantage of seeing 3 lefties. Now, granted, they're all kind of different. They all have different pitch specialties for the most part, but seeing a team throw 3 straight lefties or 3 straight righties, you just don't see that very often. I don't trust Aaron Nola. I can't trust him out of the bullpen. He's good for 4 innings, and then there's 1 inning, it feels like every single time, where he just gets beaten up a little bit. So yeah, he's a guy that you can't trust in the postseason. You can't really trust Taijuan Walker. Maybe you go and you decide somebody's going to go 3 innings, and then you put like a Walker or a Buehler behind that guy, and you kind of do some situations where you have a couple starters in one game. But yeah, that 4th spot is rather interesting. That's why the bye is important for them, to line everything up perfectly, so that way they don't have to have their 4th starter go that often.
Yep, no question about it. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, that is a big question with them, especially with Zach Wheeler being out of the fold. As joining me on the show, we've got Matt Josephs, aka Mid-Major Matt, right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, good news is we do not have to subject ourselves to Aaron Nola here on Thursday, because they are not going to be playing on Thursday. But that said, we've got some interesting matchups, including this one between the Blue Jays and the Rays. Shane Baz against Chris Bassett. This total is 8.5 in a lot of spots. I'm seeing an 8 pop up as well, with the Blue Jays as a bit of a favorite. Want to get your thoughts here, because Shane Baz has been terrible at home. Chris Bassett has been terrible on the road. This is a Blue Jays team that has been awful with their bullpen, but have been really good with regards to their bats, especially that 8. That just feels like too low of a total for a pair of stars I just don't believe in.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we're now at the portion of the season where the Rays are kind of holding their guys to 5 innings. You look at some of the last couple starts. I mean, Ryan Pepio had been a 5-inning guy for the longest time until he went an inning and 2/3 earlier in this series. So certainly if you are a quote-unquote believer in Shane Baz, you're probably going to have to take him in the first 5. He might go a little bit longer, but the Rays always at the end of the season are doing their best to keep everybody fresh and make sure that nobody's injured. So certainly that is something to kind of consider here. And you're right, Chris Bassett is a guy that I do not like, certainly away from home. One thing that is interesting in this one, Brandon Lau is 10 of 17 with 4 home runs against Bassett in his career. So if you're a DFS guy or you play a player prop guy, chances are you're going to want to include him in any sort of thing, because he has tremendous numbers against Bassett. Vlad Jr. in a smaller sample size has really good numbers against Baz, but it's a tough matchup here to decide. But if you do like the starters, you most likely want to take advantage of the first 5 innings instead of the whole game. That way you don't have to worry about the bullpens, which aren't necessarily the best dangerous right now.
Yeah, especially with the Blue Jays. They just have not been in great form with regards to their bullpen recently as well. And then I think that this one is very interesting as well because for the Milwaukee Brewers, they just continue to get really good starts out of Quinn Priester. They're facing off against the LA Angels, and Yusei Kikuchi has about minus 175, minus 185 favorites. Totals between 8 and 8.5. Want to get your thoughts here because for Priester, I do think that there's quite a bit of regression coming, but it's just so hard to back Yusei Kikuchi on the road, and he has been in bad form himself.
Yeah, and if you look at the last 5 games before this podcast, because obviously the Woodruff start is going on right now, you look at the Angels are striking out a ton. Bryce Miller had 11 strikeouts in 5 2/3. Wu had 13 in 6 innings. Kirby had 14 in 6 1/3 innings, and then Peralta started the series off with 10 in 6 innings. Priester's not necessarily a strikeout guy, but I feel like if the number's a little too low, you've got to take the over here because the Angels feel like a team that's kind of ready for their season to end. Certainly they're ready there's no postseason for them. And, they're part of a road trip and they're going to head to Colorado and begin a series over the weekend in Colorado. So who knows what kind of lineup you might get, one of those travel day lineups where there's a bunch of guys who are out in this situation. So I'll probably be looking at Priester's K-prop over. It's probably going to be like 5.5 and 6.5 or where he has not gone a ton this season. But right now the Angels just feel like a team that's ready for the season to end. And as you said, Milwaukee at home, you never want to fade Milwaukee at home. It feels like they've done a lot of good things there offensively. So I'll be playing a lot of Milwaukee side of things props in this matchup.
Yep, I'm right there with you. With the Brewers, I can't fade them, but at the same time with Quinn Priester, feel like he could give up some runs. And to your point about the LA Angels, all or nothing team. They are a top 5 team in terms of home runs out of at-bat basis, bottom 5 team in terms of their on-base percentage, and you mentioned the strikeouts. They're towards the top of the big leagues with that regard as well. As we do have Mid-Major Matt, a.k.a. Matt Josephs, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And then this one I find to be intriguing as well. It's the Mets going against the Padres, and you want to talk about a team that's floundered recently. It's the New York Mets, and they're throwing out their Jonah Tong, who in his 3 starts has been, getting trial by fire in the big leagues. And Randy Vasquez, I don't know how he has a 3.72 ERA. He doesn't get strikeouts. He gives up quite a few walks, but has a 3.72 ERA. Want to get your thoughts here because with Randy Vasquez, I feel like this guy is just so overdue for regression. I think it might finally come on Thursday.
Yeah, you can't survive like he does with getting a lot of contact and then just expect as much success as he's had. And to your point, 123 in the 3rd inning, 71 strikeouts. I mean, and the funny thing is, like, I'm looking his last start, he had 9 against Colorado at home. So there's 9 of the 71 against the Colorado Rockies. And then you just see a lot of 3s and 2s, and the occasional 4, the occasional 5. And so he's certainly in one of these situations where he is going to get blown up a little bit because of the lack of strikeouts. It's one of those things where you have to get strikeouts. You can't rely on your defense so much. This is a Mets team that feels like offensively they get hot and they get cold. So that's one of the things here. They had a really good outing against Michael King in that first start. So I would lean to New York here. As you said, Tong has had a little bit of a rough start, but he's faced some good lineups. The Rangers are a really good lineup. The Reds are a good lineup. Giving up 4 runs to the Marlins, that's not necessarily the best, but it was only 1 earned run in that start. I expect him to calm down a little bit and maybe pitch a little bit better in this game. The other thing to kind of look out for here, it's once again a travel game for the Padres. They are heading to Chicago to take on the White Sox the next game. So always on Thursdays, you have to make sure the lineups are out there to make sure the guys that you want to be out there are out there.
Yep, I think that that's very well said by you, and always something that you do want to be taking note of. And when it comes to this game, I do think that there's a lot of fun to be had as well as Tariq Skubal. He had to leave his last start early against the Marlins. Maybe I'm thinking a little bit too, shall we say, cynically, but I feel like a little bit of that was showmanship because he was getting lit up by the Miami Marlins. I think that he's going to be relatively fine here. And he goes up against the Guardians lineup that has been one of the worst in all of baseball. Tigers are north of a $2 favorite, the total between 7 and 7.5. Want to get your thoughts here, especially on a guy in Tanner Bybee that has really struggled on the road this year.
Yeah, he's a guy I had a lot of hopes for. And you remember in spring training, he was awesome. I must have fallen for the spring training headlines. I took him under for his future to have an under 4 ERA. Obviously, I'm going to lose that bet there because he has not been good on the road. And you look at Skubal in his last 2 starts against the Cleveland Guardians, he's gone 16 innings. He's given up 5 hits. He's had 23 strikeouts, and he's had no walks and no runs allowed. So he's got really good numbers against them. But yeah, you're right. Like, you have to wonder what happened in that last start. He's had a couple of quote-unquote rough starts. In the month of August, he had a 2.52 ERA, so that's not necessarily the greatest coming off the start against the Marlins, who he should have had more success against. So I'm going to be cautious, and potentially his number's going to be really high. It's going to be 7.5, 8.5 for his strikeout numbers. I don't usually like to take that unless we're going up against the Angels, who, as we just talked about, strike out a lot. But, I would lean more towards the Skubal side of things, but it's very cautious. I'm very cautious with him because remember, they need him for the playoffs, and they know they're pretty much going to be probably the 2 seed. I know they're slightly holding off Seattle here, but I would not be surprised if Skubal only went 5 innings to kind of ease him back into things, maybe 6 at the most. But certainly, if you go off his previous numbers, he should dominate Cleveland's lineup.
Yep, I'm right there with you. With the Cleveland Guardians, they've just had such a rough go of it at the plate all season long. Guys unnamed Jose Ramirez have just not been able to give you any consistency, both with regards to power or in terms of being able to move the line. And Matt, we do have ourselves a interesting slate for this Thursday. It's a little bit smaller than most of them, but still 10 games, not too bad for a travel day. Anything else that you're personally taking a look at?
I mean, obviously, Sandy Alcantara in Colorado, that should be a little bit of fun seeing how he does out there. I'm happy to see that he's kind of picked things up a little bit. I'm really happy because I had the over 8.5 wins in the preseason. Of course, I thought he was going to be a member of the Dodgers or the Padres or somebody else, but he got that 9th victory over Skubal in that game, so I'm really happy about that. And then, look, I want to see what happens with the Royals. The Royals have gone back to their high contact ways. Luis Castillo is a different pitcher on the road. Of course, it's a 2:10 game, so you certainly, as I say, make sure to check out the lineups there because of the fact that it's an afternoon game. The Royals are staying home, so that won't change that much. But every once in a while, you get a different player or two in there, so certainly you want to make sure for that. And then, of course, I'm still dying. As of this podcast, I need one more win for my over on the Athletics for the season. I got 71.5, and they're at 71. So hopefully by the time you hear this, they have gotten that win on Wednesday. But if not, JT Ginn's been okay. They're going to finish up their series in Boston against the Red Sox, and then they head to Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates, who I got to think will give up one win to the A's. But I want to see what the A's look like. That lineup is really good, and I think I'm going to hit the over once again with them next year. I think, depending upon their stadium situation and if they make any free agency moves, that lineup is good. It's young. If they make the right additions, aka not Luis Severino type additions that were bad and spent a lot of money on, I think the A's are going to have some value next year, and I like how they're closing out the season instead of being one of these teams who are like, oh, well, we're not going to make the playoffs. Let's play really badly.
Yep, absolutely. They've been showing a lot of good fight, and I think a lot of that comes back to the manager as well. I know that when it comes to a guy like Murky, he does a good job of just being able to show some pride, just trying to be able to get the most out of his team. So that's something that's always really good to see, and a man that always does an amazing job whenever he joins this podcast, lends such great insights, and does so on a wide variety of different fronts. That'd be you, Matt. You're doing a great job on baseball, but not just that. College football is back in our lives. You're getting set for an amazing college basketball season as well. You actually joined my Coast to Coast Hoops podcast about a week or so as well. So love to get people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, I'm Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. I post all my plays. Full transparency. You can find it on the Action Network app, so therefore nobody can question my record or anything like that. And certainly we all have the same goal. We all want to beat the book. So if you have a prop question, a first 3, a first 5, a first 7, whatever it is, make sure to hit me up because I'm always willing to help. And if it's college football related, team totals, whatever it is, and certainly when college basketball begins, we'll find our mid-major that we're going to find some success with. It's been Toledo, it's been fading Bellarmine's defense. We'll find our new one for this coming season and have a lot of fun with that. And so it's always a pleasure to be on the podcast.
And it is always great to be able to get Matt aboard. He does such an incredible job taking a look at this game of baseball, full of great insights on the prop front, and every single time he joins me, well, such great insights. So big thanks to Matt for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family podcast. It is always great to get Matt Josephs, a.k.a. Mid-Major Matt, aboard. He does such a great job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So big thanks to Matt for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_D1, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games. Lone Interleague game is going to be listed at the bottom, so that'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Let's get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card. It is the Slam Diego Padres at the road. They're facing off against the New York Metropolitans. Jonah Tong is on the bump for the Mets, and Randy Vasquez goes for San Diego. 8.5 to 9 is the total on the 8.5. Over is -120. The under is even on the 9. The under is -115. Over is -105. The Mets are right around about a -118 to a -120 favorite. Even money to +105. Then around the Padres in. I did set the Mets here at a -147. I'm going to be looking at them on the money line. Maybe it's just me, but man, I do think that Randy Vasquez is just doing for so much regression. He doesn't get strikeouts. He gives up a lot of walks. He has been so lucky to be able to maintain the ERA that it's not even funny, and it's actually coming off of a really nice start where he gave up 0 runs in 6 innings against Colorado Rockies, albeit Colorado, but 3.72 ERA, 4.94 fielding dependent, 5.2 strikeouts at 3.6 walks per 9 innings. I do think that is going to be drying up a little bit, and for Jonah Tong, he has been rudely graded to the MLB level. First few starts have been less than savory. First 3 starts, 8.49 ERA, 11 8 2/3 innings, 14 runs, 11 of which have been earned with giving up a trio of bombs. He has been able to get the strikeouts, which that was his specialty at the minor league level this year. He was getting at the minor league level right in that neighborhood, about 14 strikeouts per 9 innings. Just absolutely insane, and thus far he has been able to get 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, and when it comes down to it, you've got a New York Mets lineup that is doing a much better job of hitting the deep ball than the San Diego Padres. Padres are actually a bottom 5 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, and with this Padres team, it has been interesting because you've got a lineup where typically 8 out of 9 guys are hitting above a 245, so they've got a lot of guys who are able to move the line. The catcher spot is sometimes a little bit suspect, but Kevin Cheats, 19 home runs, hitting at 260. Manny Machado, he's been able to lead the way with 25 bombs. He's hitting about a 275. Fernando Tatis Jr., 350 on base, 22 home runs. The shortstop spot is a little bit suspect with Xander Bogaerts currently being on the injured list, but all in all, you've got a pretty rock-solid lineup with Freddie Fermin when he's at the catcher spot being solid. Ramon Laureano has been a little bit cold recently, but still 23 home runs, give you over a 340 on base. And for the Mets, Pete Alonso, 35 bombs with about a 340 on base. Juan Soto, 40 home runs, and he's been approaching about a 400 on base. Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, a combined 50 home runs, both hitting above a 260. And as a matter of fact, for the Mets, all but one player in the starting lineup yesterday was hitting above a 250. And you've had Mark Vientos get hot. You've had Brett Beatty hit for a bit more average with his 17 home runs. The problem with the Mets is that his bullpen has been absolutely terrible. Ryan Helsley has a north of 80 ERA since joining the team. Gregory Soto's not been great. Reed Garrett has been falling all over himself. It's really been Tyler Rogers, Edwin Diaz, and Brooks Raley supplying a sub-325 ERA. And then for the Padres, they are number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Even with sometimes having Robert Suarez being a bit up and down, these guys like Adrian Morejon, David Morgan, Jason Adam, they have all been rock solid. These have all been guys that have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Jeremiah Estrada has been having some issues, but Mason Miller, ever since they picked him up, he has been absolutely superb as well. So it does lead to an interesting circumstance here. Personally, I would rather have the 8.5 over rather than the 9 under because of the way that these two starting pitchers have performed. So looking at that over, and with the Mets, I'm going to be in on the money line, set them at a -147. 9:53, 9:54 on the card. It is the Rockies, and they play us the Miami Marlins. Sandy Alcantara goes for the Fish, and Tanner Gordon goes for the Rockies. And the Rockies, who find themselves as sizable underdogs, you're going to be getting them between +143 to a +152, -170 to -180. That number on Miami, 10.5 is the total. Overs between -110 to a -120. Unders between even and -110. If you're looking to lay the run line of Miami, that's right around -105 to a -110. Could only make the Marlins -164 on the money line, but I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that run line. I did set it at a -114. As for Sandy Alcantara and Tanner Gordon, both of these guys have had rough seasons. Gordon has actually given up 1 or 2 runs in 4 of his last 5 starts, but still rocking a 6.14 ERA. Both of these guys just have not been able to get a lot of swings and misses this year, and that's really been the commonality for them. For Tanner Gordon, it's not as if he's giving up like a whole bunch of rockets or anything like that. 1.5 home runs per 9 innings is not great, but typically it's not leading to a 6.14 ERA, 2.2 walks per 9 innings, but his swing and miss just has not been there. And then for Sandy Alcantara, he's not really giving up a lot of home runs either, but that said, he's just been very inconsistent all season long. He's giving up 3 walks per 9 innings, which is uncharacteristic of him, 5.53 ERA, and that goes up to a 7.26 when he's away from home, but he is backed up by a Marlins lineup that I think a lot of people would be surprised to know. They are number 5 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game away from home. Now deal with a pair of big injuries. Xavier Edwards at the top. He's been hitting at 280. He's right now day-to-day, and Kyle Sowers is still on the injured list, but Otto Lopez has been able to step up. He's supplying 14 home runs. He's been able to about a 250. You've gotten really good production out of Augustin Ramirez in terms of a home run hitting standpoint, 20 home runs, but less than a 300 on base. But you do have guys like Herberto Hernandez, Connor Norby. These guys hang right around about a 250 or so. Troy Johnson has been able to move the line. Jacob Marcy is hitting above a 300. And for the Colorado Rockies, this team overall is in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in terms of run creation. Obviously, they're much better at home, as you've got the likes of Ezekiel Tovar, Tyler Freeman, Mickey Moniak, Jordan Beck, have all been able to hit above a 275 when they've been at home. Hunter Goodman has been rock solid, hitting 30 home runs just all over the place, both at home and on the road. He's been able to give this team some good production, but this is still a bullpen that is all sorts of suspect right now with the Rockies. Victor Vodnik, Jimmy Harrigan, these 2 guys have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA, but then you've got the likes of Anel Shavili, Ryan Rolison, Zach Ognos, who's currently on the injured list, a whole bunch of guys that are supplying an ERA well above a 5, so they just don't have any reliable options. And for the Miami Marlins, this has been a bullpen that has been all over the place themselves. You do have Tyler Phillips, Kate Gibson, Ronnie Enriquez give you a sub-350 ERA. Calvin Fauché has been up and down as a closer. George Soriano has just been terrible, posting up above a 9 ERA, so do think that you get a plentiful amount of runs here. Did some I total 11.4, like the over, and for the Marlins, willing to lay up to a minus 113 on that run line. 955, 956 on the card. It is the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They play us to the Cubs. Right now, it is to be determined for the Cubs, and Hunter Green goes for the Reds. This game is completely off the board. That said, Colin Ray should be pitching in some form or capacity. They have used an opener in the past for him, but if it is Ray as a starter/bulk guy going against Hunter Green, I set the Reds at a minus 146 on the money line. Willing to go up to a minus 145 there, plus 147 or better in on the Cubs, and then 8 or less. So I'll be looking at the over, 8.5 or higher, the under. I know that seems like a low total, but that said, Hunter Green has just been that good thus far this season, especially when he's been at home. A 3.01 ERA with a fielding dependent of a 3.56 with getting 11.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. Has been hurt by the deep ball a little bit. He has given up about 1.4 to 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but as much as they like to call it Great American Small Park, man, he has come up big out there in Cincinnati. A 169 ERA at home, 5 home runs allowed in 53 in a third inning, so he has been tremendous when he has been in Cincinnati. And then if you do indeed get Colin Ray, he's not too much of a swing and miss guy. 4.23 ERA with fielding dependent of 4.44, 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Not really hurting himself. 1.2 home runs, 2.6 walks allowed per 9 innings, and has given up 3 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 appearances, since he has had an opener come in for him a time or two. But that said, for the Chicago Cubs, it is a pretty rock-solid bullpen. They've been dealing with the injury to Daniel Palencia, which hurts their overall depth, but likes of Taylor Rogers, Caleb Theobar, Brad Keller, Drew Pomeranz, these have been guys that have been able to give you a sub-325 ERA. Andrew Kittredge, since joining the team, has been pretty rock-solid as well. Problem for the Cubs has been their offense. Bottom 7 team in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break. Kyle Tucker lands on the injured list, and Pico Armstrong did have a home run or 2 in the previous series, but he's been slumping along with Seiya Suzuki. Both of these guys have been stuck right around 27 to 30 home runs apiece for a very long time. Moises Ballesteros has come up to the big league level, and he's hitting above a 300. He's actually been very good for this team, and they need it because you've had Carson Kelly here in the second half of the season slip slide away. Matt Shaw, 9 home runs ever since the All-Star break. He's actually been one of your better hitters, but his team has had a lot of inconsistency ever since the All-Star break with regards to their offense. And for these Cincinnati Reds, you just don't have a lot of fear factor with regards to the deep ball. Right now, Ellie De La Cruz, he's been leading the way. He's been able to supply the team with 19 home runs, but he's been stuck on 19 home runs for quite a while. But just up and down the boulevard, you've got a lot of rock-solid hitters that are finding a way to get on base. TJ Friedel, Gavin Lux, Austin Hayes, De La Cruz, these guys have all been able to between about a 259 to 267. Novalli Marte, 13 bombs, give you about a 275 average. And then Brian Hayes, since he joined the team, he's been able to supply about a 330 on base. And this has been a bullpen for the Cincinnati Reds that has been able to do a rock-solid job. They're not great. They're not terrible. You've got the likes of Tony Santillan, Emilio Pagan, Connor Phillips, give you a sub-335 ERA. They had to send Lewis May down to the minors, and Zachary Maxwell's had his ups and downs. He and Graham Ashcraft above a 4 ERA, but for the Reds, I do think that Hunter Green supplies a good start. If it is Green going up against Ray, minus 145 or better, looking at the Reds, plus 147 or better, the Cubs. If it's someone not named Ray, if you get someone like a Ben Brown, probably closer to like a minus 155 on the Reds, and total would remain the same. 8 or less to the over, 8.5 or higher. The under, 957, 958 on the card. It's another game that's off the board, as we've got the Giants, and they're going to be on the road. They're going to be facing off against the LA Dodgers, as we do know that Logan Webb is on the bump for the Giants. Right now, the betting board reads to be determined, which is why this game is off the board. Now, this should be Yoshinobu Yamamoto. This will be his time through, as he last pitched on Friday, so he'll be going on plenty of rest. And if you do indeed get that matchup, I set the Dodgers where I'm willing to lay up to a minus 146 on the money line, plus 148 or higher. I'd be looking at the San Francisco Giants and set a total of a 7.8, 7.5 or less. Could be in on the over, and 8 or higher. I'm in on the under, as with this Dodgers team, they have just been a completely different animal when Max Muncy has been out there in the lineup, averaging about a full run and a half per game more when he's in versus when he's out. He's been able to supply about a 370 on base, give you a home run every about like 18 at bats. He has been tremendous. And then Shohei Ohtani, dude just continues to rake 50 home runs, over a 380 on base. He has been rock solid. You need a bit more on base out of Teoscar Hernandez. For Hernandez, he's only supplying the team with a on-base percentage that is hovering right around about a 285, but he's been able to give you 24 home runs. Eddie Paz, he's been able to give you 25 bombs, so he's been able to do a pretty rock-solid job there as well. And then you've got Freddie Freeman just continuing to move the line and get on base. He's up to about a 360, 370-ish on base, 20 home runs out of him. Mookie Betts has been much better here in the second half of the season as well, but now you've got Will Smith, who is getting jiggy with it on the injured list. Kike Hernandez have been albatrosses in the lineup, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, they're dealing with a lot of injuries themselves. JT Realmuto has been in and out of the lineup. Alec Boehm, Trey Turner down for what are on the injured list, and Kyle Schwarber's just had to carry the team. And he's done a great job of carrying the team. 53 home runs, his on-base percentage is right around about a 370. You'll love to be able to see that. And then you do have a few other guys that have done a pretty solid job in terms of just finding a way to be able to hit for average. Like, you've got the likes of a Bryce Harper give you a 360 on base. He's up to 27 home runs. He's been the main form of support for Mr. Kyle Schwarber. Umondo Sosa was hitting at 270, but he landed on the injured list as well. Nick Castellanos, 295 on base. You need a little bit more out of him, but you still have been able to get some relatively good consistency out of the likes of Otto Kemp, who has come up to the big league level. He's been solid, and Harrison Bader since joining the team, hitting above a 300. For the Phillies, this bullpen is starting to come along for the ride as well. Jose Alvarado has been a little bit of a flop since coming off of the suspended list, but Ryan Kerkering, Matt Strahm, Tanner Banks, the closer in Yohan Duran, these guys are giving you a sub 330 ERA, but the Dodgers are getting healthy with their bullpen as well. You've had Michael Kopech be very good for this team. Now, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates are off the injured list, but both have north of a 375 ERA, so these guys have been a little bit rough, but I do think that for the LA Dodgers, they get a solid start here, whether it be Yamamoto or someone else, because with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, if he does get the start, he's actually been a little bit worse when he's been at home rather than when he's been away from home, but still, this is a guy that is right now supplying a 266 ERA, fielding dependent, a little bit closer to about a 296, as he has given up 2.8 walks per 9 innings, but 0.08 home runs, 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and for Logan Webb, he did get smoked in his last start, giving up 6 runs to this very LA Dodgers team, and he's always had some pretty demonstrative home and road splits for his career. His ERA is about 1.3 points better when he is at home rather than away from home, but this year for Logan Webb, it's been a little bit more consistent. He's been good both at home and on the road, and he's got a 334 ERA, 9.8 strikeouts, 2.1 walks per 9 innings for a 271 fielding dependent, giving up 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, and traditionally has been able to do still a pretty solid job against the LA Dodgers. Well, that's in comparison to most pitchers, because most pitchers really do struggle when they go up against the LA Dodgers, because if you take a look at his road starts throughout his career, whenever he's been to Los Angeles, he's been posting up a lifetime 370 ERA with a 4-1 record, and throughout his career has given up just 4 home runs in 48 2/3 innings, so he has been able to have quite a bit of success there, and I do think that this is going to be a very interesting circumstance where it's the opposite of what we saw in the last Logan Webb start against the LA Dodgers, but that said, I do think that it's going to be a lower scoring game, because the Giants do still have a top 4 team in terms of bullpen ERA. I know that they traded away quite a few pieces at the deadline, and we have seen Jose Buto really start to have some issues. He's got north of 4 ERA ever since joining the San Francisco Giants, but that said, even with Randy Rodriguez on the injured list, like so, Yo Piguero has been able to step up. He's been able to give this team a sub 2 ERA. Joey Lucchesi has been hovering right around about a 350, been up and down for Matt Gage, but he's been relatively solid as well. So I did set a very low total here. If you get Yamamoto against Logan Webb, I would be looking at a 7 for less to the over, an 8 or higher to the under with the Dodgers. I'd be willing to lay up to minus 146 on the money line, plus 148 or higher. Looking at the Giants, it probably gets affected by about like 20-25 cents if it's not Yamamoto and it's someone else, and that would be a total to where an 8 or less. I'd be looking at the over 8.5 or higher to the under if it's not Yamamoto. 959, 960 on the card. It is the Blue Jays on the road against the Rays. The Wizard of Boz, Shane Boz, goes for the Rays, and Chris Bassett as yoke, line, and sinker for the Blue Jays. And Blue Jays who find themselves as the road favorite in this ordeal between minus 118 to a minus 125, plus 104 to a plus 108 is your number on the Rays, and total's 8.5. The over and the under are both at minus 110, and I'm going to be in on this total over. I set my total at a 9.2. Just has not been a good season for the Wizard of Oz, as he's posting up right now a 5.15 ERA. He's been giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. The swing and miss stuff has still been solid this year. He's getting right around about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, a little bit under that, but you just take a look at the way that he has been getting tattooed recently, and that's a big giant concern, as he has given up at least 3 runs in now 6 out of his last 8 starts, and he goes up against the Blue Jays lineup that ever since the All-Star break, they've been a top 2 team in the American League in terms of run production. Bullpen has left a little bit of something to be desired, as the Blue Jays have been a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen here ever since the All-Star break, with having a lot of guys like Yuriel Rodriguez, Braden Fisher, Brandon Little, who all for the season have a sub 3.25 ERA, really starting to suffer here ever since the All-Star break. You've had Sir Anthony Dominguez be a little bit up and down since they picked him up, and since they picked him up, Louis Varland has been posting up a 6 ERA as well, but this is a lineup that is very rock solid, with George Springer giving you 29 home runs, about a 395 on base. Flagler Jr., he continues to just supply average and power, 23 home runs. You'd expect the power to be a little bit higher with him, but still, when you're giving your team a 395 on base, supplying over 80 RBI, that's going to get the job done, as is Bo Bichette, who's hitting for above 318 home runs. I know that he hasn't hit for a lot of average, but Dalton Varsho, a home run every about 12 or so at-bats. He's been rock solid there, and even David Schneider, 11 home runs and fewer than 170 at-bats with 360 on base, has been good. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, ever since the beginning of the month of July, this has been a top 10 unit in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, I'm not necessarily fond of Brian Baker, Griffin Jax, pair of guys with north of a 6 ERA for the season, but you've been able to get some good production out of the likes of Eric Warzay, spent a lot of time at the minor league level. Now they're looking at Joe Rock as a little bit more of a long guy. These 2 guys, Pete Fairbanks, Garrett Clevenger, have been able to give you a sub 3.10 ERA, and for the Rays, you've been able to get really good production out of the just power of this team. The main 3 guys, Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lau, Junior Caminero, they've all been able to do a nice job moving the line, with Lau and Caminero both hitting about a 260, with Lau 29 home runs, 44 for Caminero. Really doesn't draw a lot of walks, but he'll take the home runs, and then you've got Yandy Diaz giving you about 24 bombs, 360 on base. Now, with regards to base stealing, it's been one of the best in the big leagues as well. Chandler Simpson, 42 stolen bags, hitting at 290. You've been able to get about 25 stolen bases and a 290. Jake Magnum as well, though the shortstop spot and the catcher spots have been big giant albatrosses for this lineup, and they do go up against a guy in Chris Bassett that has had some very demonstrative home and road splits this season. For Bassett, he's posting up a sub 285 ERA. He's done a nice job of being able to control the deep ball. Overall for the season, 390 ERA, 1.2 home runs, 2.7 walks per 9 innings, which those are relatively good numbers, but simply has not been the same pitcher when he has been on the road, posting up a 5.42 ERA, and on the road he's giving up in the neighbor about 1.4 to 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. So I did set my total here on a 9.2. I do like the over, and I do believe that the Blue Jays should be a favorite. I'm not really big on Shane Boz. I set my money line price at a minus 124, so I'm going to lay up to a minus 123 there to go along with the over. 961, 962 on the card. The Cleveland Guardians are on the road against the Detroit Tigers. Tariq Skubal goes for Detroit, and Tanner Bybee is on the bum for Cleveland. Cleveland is a underdog of between plus 170 to plus 180, and you've got the Detroit Tigers between minus 195 to a minus 210. Total is 7 to 7.5 on the 7.5. Under is minus 115, over is minus 105. The 7 has overjuice of minus 120, and the under is even. And for Skubal and the Tigers, I set them at a minus 233 on the money line. Was willing to go up to a minus 112 on the run line. Right now we're finding that at plus money, so sign me up there. I know that Tariq Skubal, he got removed from his last start due to a little bit of ailment, but if I'm calling it what it is, I think that there might have been a little bit of gamesmanship there. I think that they might have wanted to cover up for the fact that he was not having the world's greatest night. He looked like it was a solid bullpen session for him when he was trying to rehab to be able to make sure that he was still able to make the start. And He had given up prior to this 1 earned run in his previous 4 starts. Now, he also had 5 more unearned runs in that time span as well, but still, Tyreek Skubal overall for the season, 2.26 ERA, 2.45 fielding dependent, strikeout to walk ratio of 8, giving up just 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, and now he gets a face-off against a Guardians team that's in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of run creation. You just don't have much outside of Jose Ramirez, who's supplying 28 home runs, 355 on base, and then Kyle Manzardo, 26 home runs. He's been able to give you about a 325 on base as well. Stephen Kwan is hitting at 275, but then you just take a look at the rest of this lineup, and then you've got the likes of Bo Naylor, Daniel Streeman, Nolan Jones, David Fry, John Kenzie Noel, a whole bunch of guys hitting at 215 or lower. And they're really not providing a lot of power. All these guys, 12 home runs or fewer, so that's a big, giant issue. You've got a Guardians team, though, that does have a very rock-solid bullpen. They're in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. They're dealing with an injury to Nick Enright, but likes of Eric Zabrowski, Cade Smith, Kobe Allard, they've been able to supply a sub-325 ERA. Hunter Gaddis has ended up and down season, but he's been a little bit better as well. Even without Emmanuel Clase, they have been rock-solid in this bullpen. And for the Tigers, they've had their woes in the bullpen, to say the least. Looking at you, Tommy Kahnle, who's been not great, to say the least, for the Tigers, posting up well above a 4 ERA, but still have quite a few guys that have done a nice job of being able to hold down the fort this far this season. You've got the likes of Troy Melton, who's been utilized as a long guy, Bailey Horn, Brendan Hennefy, give you a 3 ERA or better. And for the Tigers, this is a top 8 lineup in terms of run creation, as you just have consistency up and down the board. You've got 2 main managers, Spencer Torkelson, 29 bombs, 335 on base. Riley Green is hitting for 34 home runs. He's been hitting about a 265, but then just have a whole big giant slew of other guys that have been hitting between about a 254 to 265. Jahmai Jones is a little bit more of a platoon guy. Zach McKinstry, Wencio Perez, Javi Baez, Kerry Carpenter, Gleyber Torres, and Torres up to a 360 on base. Really, other than Carpenter with his 26 home runs, a lot of guys between about 11 to 16 bombs, and Dylan Dingler now hitting about a 280. So I do think that the Tigers do a nice job of getting to a guy in Tanner Bybee, who has really struggled on the road thus far this season. For Bybee, he's been actually a relatively solid pitcher when he's been at home, but strikeout numbers are down. He's only getting 7.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, a career high 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, and much of the demise has been the fact that he has not been able to pitch on the road all season long. At home, he's supplying an ERA that is around about a 335, 542 on the road, and on the road, 1.9 home runs per 9 innings. So did set the Tigers at a minus 112 on the run line, willing to lay that, and I did set my total at 7.6, so whether you got a 7 or a 7.5, I do like the over. 963, 964 on the card. It is the Athletics. They are on the road against the Boston Red Sox. Brian Bayo is on the bump for the Sox, and JT Ginn Juice goes for the Athletics. The Athletics do find themselves between plus 132 to a plus 145, and between minus 156 to a minus 169. Very nice is that number on Boston. 9 to 9.5 is the total on the 9.5. Under is minus 120. The over is even on the 9. The over is minus 120. Under is even, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the 9 over. I set my total 9.1, and I do like the Red Sox on the run line. Pretty much any plus number was going to do. I'm seeing mostly plus 125 out there, so that is certainly going to get the job done for me to get to the window on that. And for Brian Bayo, he has been very rock solid at Fenway thus far this season. Just really able to do a nice job with the sinker ball, of being able to keep the ball in the yard, giving up overall for the season 3.1 walks, but only 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, 325 ERA compared to about a 413 fielding dependent. And then on the flip side, you've got a guy in JT Ginn who just has had his struggles in terms of giving up hard contact this year, and he has been able to do a nice job in terms of getting swings and misses. He's up to 10.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 1.8 home runs per 9, 3 walks allowed per 9. Now, the one thing that you want to note with he and so many of these Sacramento A's pitchers is that they typically pitch much worse when they're at home rather than on the road. Ginn is one of those guys. 5.98 home ERA, 3.16 ERA on the road, giving up more like 1 home run per 9 innings, but does face off against the Red Sox team that, even though you don't have like super duper boppers, like Trevor Story is your main guy in terms of power. He's been able to supply 24 home runs. He's hitting in that neighborhood about a 265. Just have a lot of consistency. Even with Roman Anthony being out of the fold for this team, you do have so many guys that are hitting in that neighborhood of, we're going to call it about a 249 to a 258. Jaron Duran, Carlos Cervantes, and then Nathaniel Lowe in a Red Sox uniform and a Red Sox uniform only have been there. Nick Sogard just above that, hitting about a 267. So these guys have done a nice job there. And additionally, you've got Alex Bregman, who's been able to give you about a 355 on base. Not really supplying as much power as you'd expect. 17 home runs this season, but still has been solid and move the line. And for the Red Sox, it's really been this bullpen that has been the driving force for their success this year. A top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERAs. You've got so many guys that are able to just go out there and hold down the fort. Chris Murphy, along with Steven Matz, Garrett Whitlaw, Greg Weiser, Justin Wilson. I'll give you a sub 315 ERA, and then Aroldis Chapman has been the best closer in the big leagues, right around a 125 ERA, getting 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. And the Athletics, well, they are not one of your best bullpens out there in all of baseball. You've got a lot of guys that have just really giving it up, and they're posting up an ERA well above a 4. Mitch Spence actually looked good in long relief a few days ago, but he, Tyler Ferguson, TJ McFarland, whenever he's been out there, Osvaldo Bido, who's been splitting time as a starter and coming out of the bullpen, Elvis Alvarado, all posting up at least a 3.75 ERA. Brady Basso, in a small sample size, has been relatively solid, and then Michael Kelly and Sean Newcomb have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA, but really it has been rough for this bullpen, and I do think that the Red Sox do a nice job of getting to it and getting to it relatively good, like the 9 over, and I like the Red Sox on the run line. 965, 966 on the card. It is the Royals playing against the Seattle Mariners, and Luis Castillo is on the bump for Seattle, and it is going to be Stephen Golick going for the Royals. The Royals do find themselves as underdogs between plus 101 to a plus 110, minus 120 to a minus 125 is that number on Kansas City. 9 is the total. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 120, under is between even and minus 110, and when it comes to the Mariners, set them as slim minus 104 favorites, so being able to get a plus 105 or higher, I'm going to be willing to dive in on that Royals money line, and the biggest reason why is that Luis Castillo just has not been the same pitcher when he's been away from home rather than when he's been at home. Overall for the season, a 3.76 ERA compared to a 4.03 fielding dependent. Strikeout numbers are starting to come back, but still career low, 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.2 home runs, 2.5 walks allowed per 9 innings, but you just take a look at the way that this completely toilet bowls when he's away from home, and it is a big giant issue as he's got a 5.09 road ERA, 2.71 ERA when he is at home, and on the road he's been giving up closer to 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. And for Golick, he's not a guy that's going to completely blow you away or anything like that, but he's just doing a nice job of holding down the fort for this team as he's got a 3.71 ERA, that fielding independent more in the neighborhood of a 3.90 as he's only getting 6 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 0.7 home runs, 2.5 walks per 9 innings. Faces off against a Seattle Mariners team that's going to certainly put his ability to draw soft contact to the test, because you've got big jumper Cal Raleigh, who's got a chance at a 60 home run season, entered in the day on Wednesday with 56 bombs at a 360 on base. Julio Rodriguez, he continues to supply 30 home runs, hitting about a 270. Ori Polanco, up to about a 270 with 24 home runs. You've had Eugenio Suarez hit for no average whatsoever since joining the team, but over 40 home runs as far this season. And for the Seattle Mariners bullpen, the top guys have been very good. You've had the likes of Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Gabe Spire, Edward Bizardo, all provide a sub 3 ERA, but Carlos Vargas has been shaky. Whenever they've looked at Taylor Cicero, guys like this, it has not been so amazing, and for the Royals, this continues to be a top 8 unit with regards to their bullpen ERAs. You've got a pair of guys in Lucas Ursic along Carlos Estevez that are such a good 1-2 punch when it comes to the back half of games, but on top of that, Daniel Lynch, Taylor Clark have both been able to give you a sub 3.55 ERA, and John Schreiber has been a little bit shaky, and this lineup certainly has been as well. They're still in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of run production, but have been much better ever since the All-Star break. Vinny Pasquantino, 30 bombs, he's been able to about a 265. Bobby Witt Jr. has been so consistent with his 22 home runs. He's been able to give you about a 350 or so on base, but if you look at one of the main catalysts for the team ever since the All-Star break in terms of them being able to just get back online in general, Kyle Isbell's been hitting about a 275 ever since the break. SS Miguel Garcia, 8 home runs and 200 at-bats ever since the All-Star break as well, so these guys have really been able to come through. Salvador Perez post All-Star break, 15 home runs, but hitting just for a 261 on base, so interesting little bit of a circumstance here. I do think that you're going to get run scoring in this game. I set my total at a 9.1, so at the 9 I like the over, and at a plus 105 or better in on the Royals money line. 967, 968 on the card. It is the New York Yankees on the road against the Baltimore Orioles. Cade Povich is on the bump for Baltimore, and it is Max Fried who gets to start for the Yankees. Right now, that initial FanDuel opener has the Yankees at a minus 205 on the money line. You're going to be getting a plus 172 on the Baltimore Orioles, and then the total is 8.5, over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. Do like the Yankees on the run line here, seeing that at a minus 115, I'm willing to go up to a minus 122. For Max Fried, he was really having some struggles towards like late June into early August, but he's been able to straighten things out recently. He has now given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and combined 7 runs in these last 5 starts, and he's just been a steady guy. He gets a decent amount of strikeouts, but not an amazing amount. 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's not beating himself. He's only given up about 0.7 home runs, 2.4 walks per 9 innings, 3.03 ERA, 3.25 fielding independent, has been pretty consistent home to road as well. And then for Cade Povich, he just has not been able to pitch in Baltimore thus far this season. Now, coming off of a nice start where he gives up 2 runs in north of 5 innings against the Pittsburgh Pirates, overall for the season though, 1.5 home runs and 3.3 walks allowed per 9 innings. Swing and miss stuff is there, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 5.05 ERA compared to about a 430 fielding dependent, but the big thing with this Orioles team is that they need him to pitch better when he's in Baltimore. 5.68 home ERA, and at home, he is giving up well above 2 home runs per 9 innings. That's not great considering this is a bullpen of the Orioles that's in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've got so many guys like Yarmiel Hidalgo, Corbin Martin, throwing there the likes of Ynier Cano, Grant Wolfram, all posting up well above a 4 ERA. They traded away their good bullpen pieces at the deadline, and Gregory Soto, well, he wasn't necessarily great for the team, but at the very least, he was able to give you some innings. And for this Baltimore Orioles lineup, they have been completely different when they've been at home rather than away from home. This is a bottom 3 unit in terms of run creation when they're away from home in the American League at 3.96 runs per game, a little bit over 4.6 runs per game at home. Now deal with a lot of injuries, having the likes of an Adley Rutschman and Jordan Westberg out of the fold hurts the team, but Jackson Alday, Gunnar Henderson, these guys have been rock solid. You've been able to get a 350 on base with 16 home runs out of Henderson. Holiday hitting for a 250. He's up to 17 bombs. Colin Cowser hits for 15 home runs, but hitting at the Mendoza line of 200 has not been savory, and you could use a bit more of Dylan Carlson, who's giving you only about a 280 on base, but Jeremiah Jackson, ever since they called him up, he's been able to about a 290, and Dylan Beavers, he's been able to supply an on-base percentage that is above a 400, but for the New York Yankees, on any given night, they could throw out there all 9 guys in the starting lineup, hitting for at least 19 home runs this season. Cody Bellinger, 28 bombs, hitting at 275. You've had Aaron Judge, obviously be judge, jury, and executioner, 48 bombs with a 450 on base. Jazz Chisholm, he's been able to move the line with about a 335 on base, 29 home runs, and Trent Grisham, ever since the All-Star break, has been hitting for a little bit less average, but he's really been on a tear. He's been able to give this team 15 home runs and 190 at-bats ever since the break, and Giancarlo Stanton, how about him post-All-Star break? 16 home runs with 150 at-bats, 345 on base. Now, the Yankees, ever since the beginning of the month of July, bottom 3 team. In terms of bullpen ERA, Luke Weaver has not looked right since coming off the injury list. Tim Hill, David Benner are both giving you a sub-325 ERA, but past that, the likes of Fernando Cruz, even Yuri De Los Santos, Devin Williams, Mark Leiter, these guys have had their issues. So I do like this total over, so I might tell it an 8.8, and with the Yankees willing to lay up to a minus 122 on the run line, and wrap things up with 969, 970 on the card. It is the Angels. They at third, they're facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers, as it is Yusei Kikuchi. I say that he's getting the start for the Angels, and Quinn Priester goes for the Brewers. The Brewers are sizable favorites here, anywhere between minus 175 to a minus 196, plus 160 to a plus 165. That number on Los Angeles, 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8.5. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. On the over of 8, it is minus 120, and the under is even. And with the Brewers, you're able to find that run line between even money and plus 108, and I'm willing to take the plus 108 run line. I need at least a plus 106 to be able to do so, because I do think that Quinn Priester is doing for a little bit of regression, but that said, Yusei Kikuchi has also been a little bit of a nightmare on the road as well, so that's going to be putting me in on the over as well. For the LA Angels, it is very much an all or nothing lineup, as they are in the bottom 4 in the big leagues in terms of their overall on-base percentage, but they're a top 5 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, as Joe continues to set fire to the rain. He's been able to supply this team with 35 home runs, despite the fact that his on-base percentage is hovering right around about a 300. Taylor Ward hitting below at 230, but he's been able to give the team over 30 home runs. Heck, Mike Trout is hitting at 230 with his over 20 home runs, albeit his on-base percentage has been closer to about a 360. You've had a lot of guys just be all over the place. They've been dealing with the injury all throughout the summertime to Jorge Soler, but even when he was out there on the field, he wasn't necessarily so great, and now they're trying to just mix and match at the bottom of the lineup as well, and a lot of these guys like Chris Taylor is a little bit of a cast-off, as well Peraza, Bryce Tesedo. These guys are just giving you a sub-300 on base, not necessarily a lot of power, and this bullpen has been all sorts of awful. You've had Brock and Roll Burke and Kenley Jansen both be able to supply you with a sub-350 ERA, but likes of Reed Detmers, Ryan Zephyrian, Jose Fermin, or just give you bad innings. Chase Silseth, we'll give him a little bit of a plug too, but that's been in a very small sample size. And for the Brewers, getting back Grant Anderson is big because they've been dealing with a few bullpen ailments themselves. You've got Trevor McGill currently on the injured list, but you've had Nick Mears be relatively rock solid, and they just got him back. Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, all 3 of those guys have been able to give you sub 350 ERA. And for the Brewers, they're right atop the National League in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break, despite the fact that you've only got one guy that's exceeded 20 home runs this season, and Christian Yelich. But with Yelich, Isaac Collins, throwing there William Contreras, Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick, you've got so many guys that are giving you above a 340 on base ever since he joined the Milwaukee Brewers. Andrew Vaughn has been able to give you above a 350 on base as well. And for our good friend and Quinn Priester, do I think that he's in for a bit of regression? Yeah, he's got a ERA that's a 325. Fielding dependence more around about a 413, as he's given up about 2.9 walks per 9 innings, only getting about 7.5 punch-outs per 9, as we were talking about with Matt. This is an Angels team that they strike out quite a bit, but as I said, I do think that the Brewers go out there, get to a guy in Yusei Kikuchi who's just been all sorts of rough on the road. He's been given up 5+ runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. That's not necessarily so amazing overall for the season. He's posting up a 4.05 ERA, a little bit over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. The walks have really been what's doomed him. That ERA, by the way, goes up to a 5.16 on the road, and even though he doesn't give up a lot of home runs at home, he's been giving up about 1.3 home runs when he has been on the road, and overall for Kikuchi, about 3.8 walks per 9 innings. So with the Brewers, I'm going to be willing to take them at a +106 or better on the run line, and do like this over, made my total at an 8.6, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family podcast. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @G_81. Keep in mind, Lars EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And big thanks to Matt Josephs, aka Mid-Major Matt, for joining me in the last segment, coming at you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the regular season into the postseason. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.